Hey, your Uncle Cooper here. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Goldie, my niece, your cousin, and Goldie didn't know which tires were right for her. The first ones were too much tire, and then the next ones were not enough tire. Anyway, long story short, Goldie found the Coopers, and they were just right. What a happy, practical ending. Go to sleep. I love you. Go with the Coopers. Cooper!
Karting and motorsport enthusiasts, Lucas Oil School of Racing is America's #1 Formula Car race school. Enjoy modern paddle shifters, pit speed limiter, and onboard video along with integrated data systems. Get started today with our 2-day basic or advanced course. Lucas Oil School of Racing is the official school of the road to Indy. We can also qualify you for your SCCA license. Get started today by visiting us at www.lucasraceschool.com.
Shortly, Stadium Super Trucks, the NTT IndyCar Series, all coming up this afternoon. Lots of action here on our Friday at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. When your car needs a pit stop, turn to Tires Plus, where you're in the driver's seat. From tires to service, Tires Plus recommends the best options for your vehicle so you can choose what's best for you, all with safer services options for your safety and convenience. PFC Brakes is proud to be the...
We know a thing or two about a smooth surface. Roads and highways, piece of cake. Airports, let's just say it'll be the smoothest landing you've ever had. But what about when you want to go fast? Real fast? No, faster. We've helped cars go faster than they've ever gone before. Broken a few lap records along the way. Want the best paving performance? Go to the source. Topcon, always one step ahead.
With over 40 years in business, High Tide Boat Lifts is committed to elevating your craft. Whether you own a personal watercraft or a large yacht, we can design and create the perfect lift for your needs. At High Tide Boat Lifts, we understand that you've worked hard to get to a successful place in life. We'll ensure you have a hassle-free experience, maximizing the time you spend on your boat with family and friends, and supporting your dreams out on the open water.
hey, we're doing something right with USF 2000 because we're developing drivers who are able to run up front in Indy Pro as well.
I think the Road to Indy has proved that point time and time again over recent years. We see the sweepers are just exiting through corner number 1, a little bit of a cleanup on the track between sessions, trying to keep the racing surface as clear of any sort of dust or dirt or debris as possible, give these drivers the best opportunity at that smooth, quick lap. Here's the 2021 season standing so far. Braden Eves up on top.
Yeah, and in fact, exclusive Autosport, Braden Eves and Artem Petrov, P1 and P2. Green flag being thrown by Aaron Likens at start-finish. So we are underway with the qualifying session for drivers here in Indy Pro. 2 qualifying runs. They'll do one here today, Todd, and one first thing tomorrow morning. Much different conditions at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, but indeed getting set to go. Expect these drivers to kind of be up front, what we saw in practice. Braden Eves, Christian Rasmussen, Eves in the red and white 91. Rasmussen in those Road to Indy scholarship colors, the white, the red, and the blue for the scholarship winner. Of course, last year's USF 2000 champion. The 18 of Hunter McElroy, the black and white colors for Pabst Racing. The familiar white and green for Juncos Racing for Reese Gold. And actually the red number 40. Good practice run for Jack William Miller out of Westfield, Indiana in the Miller Hereditary Motorsports machine. Ran USF 2000 last couple of years, and moving up to Indy Pro this year. We'll see what happens with Jack Williams, if he can transition that good speed from practice here into qualifying for race number 1. You know, you mentioned that we'll look at the championship standings right now as well. Braden Eves and Artem Petrov had some pretty consistent running in the opening rounds there at Barber Motorsports Park, but Hunter McElroy coming back. He lost or had wing damage in the first race, came back to win the second race. That has put him right there, still P3, and he's only 6 points behind. So really tight up top. And again, we don't talk championship too much early, but those are the guys really are, I think, those 3 guys that are going to be in the fight for sure by the time we get to the final round of the year.
Just getting out and completing their first circuit around this 1.8-mile course here on the streets of St. Petersburg. Tires just starting to get up to temperature, and as you mentioned, we'll deal with this in all 3 series of the Road to Indy. It's getting the tires up to the optimum temperature. The tires' pressure has to come up to the right level. Driver has to find a clear space out on track. That's what drivers are sorting through now, and then trying to get that good lap. Get a good one early, and then give yourself the opportunity to really hang it out in the latter part of the session.
As always with the Road to Indy, pleased to have a really international field as part of Indy Pro 2000 again this year. Of course, Christian Rasmussen, last year's USF 2000 champion from Copenhagen, Denmark. You've got James Rowe from Dublin, Ireland, now living in Indianapolis. You've got Cameron Shields from Toowoomba, Australia. Kevin Simpson from the Cayman Islands. You've got Manuel Sulman from Mexico City, Mexico. Artem Petrov from St. Petersburg, Russia. We've got Inam Ahmed as well from London, England. So a number of different countries represented on the grid. The drivers just starting to put in their fastest laps now. Again, we don't jump in too early here. Although Braden Eves is P1, he was the driver who was P1 in the practice session early. He's come out immediately to lay down lap times to put him up top. But again, just the first lap for everybody. Just bringing those tires up to temp. And what we haven't talked about yet, Todd, a little bit about how a fast lap comes together in qualifying with the tire pressure and the track position, lowering fuel loads, the whole deal. But bringing these Cooper tires up to temperature is a key part of it as well. If you come out there, pound on them hard, yeah, it's going to come up to temperature, but maybe not correctly. You might have hurt the tire a little bit. They're going to bring these up in a certain way. That maybe they'll approach a corner a little differently. They won't really roll through the corner. You don't want the car to slide, right? You want to be real precise with your driver, your steering wheel inputs, so you're not sliding the car on the opening couple laps. Let that grip level come up just by the heat going into the tires, not so much you really graining it hard through the corners.
Tire management is part of the learning process in the Road to Indy, whichever level you're at, because the tires will change and everything. You get more of everything as you move up the Road to Indy. And still out, Hunter McElroy has posted the quickest time on lap number 2. We'll see if that can continue. Again, the times will continue to drop, and the speeds will continue to pick up through this session, and hopefully it remains green for the full 20 minutes.
Well, we talk about tire management and bringing your tires up to temperature. You think about learning it now. Well, what's the biggest stage in IndyCar the world that you can do it on? And that's at the Indianapolis 500. I love watching qualifying for the 500 because and one of the things I really like to watch is what their outlap is. How fast are they on their outlap? You'll see some guys that be super fast on the outlap, but by the time they get their fourth qualifying lap, they've already tailed off. It's all about bringing the tire up to the temperature at the right time. What speed, what kind of pace, how much you want to push on the opening lap. That condenses it all into 5 laps, but even throughout a session here where these guys are warming up for 2 laps or 3 laps, you have to do it correctly to make sure that you turn around and have a really good peak optimization of the tire grip when the time comes. McElroy on top of 109.270, 3 laps in, still 14, maybe 15 minutes remaining in the session. Early on in this 20-lap qualifying run, and another thing, Todd, with a shortened 20-minute session, not the 30-minute session. Now you really wonder, do I come in to change tires? Do I want to do it? Probably not. A lot of the times, like we said before, you get that first run in. What do you go to 5 minutes, and then or 10 minutes, and then you come in. It's going to be 3 or 4 minutes to get the tires changed. So let's say you 8 minutes, then 4, then another 8 left. What happens if that red flag comes out? You just, especially at a track like this where a red flag can come out so easily.
And that's part of the management as well. Do you do that? Do you take that chance early on? If you're thinking of being aggressive like that, do you do that perhaps for race 2 in that qualifying session versus trying it in race number 1 and setting yourself back potentially?
Exactly that. So much strategy. You got to figure out how you want to handle things. Driver's already coming down pit lane. That is Artem Petrov down pit lane. So drivers are coming in, or do we have? No, we're a red.
Red flag.
We got a red flag. I was just going to. We're not quite sure what happened yet for the red flag. I was going to say, if somebody's coming in this early, it was potentially, hey, let's go put a banker lap in, grab those tires, and use them in a race. Essentially, put a heat cycle on those tires, get a good lap, and then use those, maybe on race number 2, whatever it may be, and have the other 2 sets for the remainder. But indeed, we do have a red flag out here coming in with what we get for green time. Almost 6 minutes of green flag time. Our TV crew going to cycle us around the racetrack here to see if we can't pick something up. Actually, let me just do the quick change here as we do. See who's out on the racetrack. We'll go to a different monitor here. A couple drivers off the racetrack. Potentially, looks like, yeah, there's damage there in turn number 3. That's Jack William Miller. And I want to say the number 11 involved as well of Hunter Yaney. It looks like he may be stopped on the racetrack between turns 3 and 4. 4 and 5, I guess that would be, right? 3 and 4? A couple little kinks of this racetrack. You never have between 3 and 4. So we do have a driver who's been in the barriers. We can see that the AMR safety crew is already there. They're picking up some of the. That's going to be on the outside of turn 3, and we've seen that many, many times. Turn 3, unbelievably quick. That little right-hander.
And it's quick in a sequence as well. Turns 2 and 3 are kind of flow together, and getting through 1 sets up your move through another.
Yeah, that's not actually 3. I think that's actually coming out of turn number 2. You see the bridge there. I think literally that's coming out of turn number 2. That maybe just on the exit of turn 2 potentially hit the wall on the inside and went to the outside. Because we've seen that happen in turn 3, that really fast kind of a kink right-hander where a guy will come in a little too tight, just clip the concrete. Its car goes straight off into the outside. And we saw Alexander Rossi have trouble there last year as well. The number 11 involved too, and that would be Hunter Yaney. Leveraging our different opportunities here on the screens we have, find out who is not into pit lane. Yeah, the number 11 and the number 40, the 2 drivers, and the 74 as well of Fittipaldi. And I want to say, as we get back to the screen again, I want to say that might be the 74 and the 11 involved somewhere in between turn 3 and 4. So we have 2 separate incidents on the racetrack. Enzo Fittipaldi, Hunter Yaney, and the 40 as well of Jack William Miller all involved right now here early on. Only about 5 minutes and 43 seconds of green time. Braden Eves P1 right now. And indeed, we're getting another shot here where the driver is potentially hammered into the side of the barrier. Again, you're seeing what we're seeing. If you're watching from home or watching on the big screens here, you can see the AMR safety crew getting back to potentially their positions here. Braden Eves is the quickest driver right now. Not even 6 minutes of green flag running. A 108.936 for Braden Eves. 0.3 quicker than Hunter McElroy. Both those drivers, they were the 2 proponents in the championship back in 2019, Todd, scrapping it out for the USF 2000 title. They both won a bunch of races and came down to the final race of the year and Eves was able to get the championship. McElroy running second to Eves right now. Artem Petrov, the other exclusive Autosport driver, in third. Christian Rasmussen for Jay Howard Driver Development, last year's USF 2000 champion. He has been impressive out of the gate. You have to remember that Jay Howard Driver Development's had a USF 2000 team for a couple years, but this is their first foray into Indy Pro 2000 racing in the PM18. And Rasmussen led led the entire race of race 2 at Barber, only to have the issue when he spun and then got a penalty for blocking McElroy late in the race. So good to see him up there P4, and then Reese Gold currently 5th.
Still have the AMR safety crew out on track, clearing up one of those incidents out on track, trying to clear the cars away. They will make sure that the safety barriers and all the equipment is in position as it should be to return to action, but they're still just trying to see exactly what may have happened out on course. But just a lot of the AMR safety team out there doing their work to prepare us to return back to action eventually and clear that car out of the way.
I'd like to see the camera that shoots back from turn 4 down to turn number 3. We know that's a great camera to watch when we go racing. It's one of the best because obviously guys get down to turn number 4 for the first time. They're spreading 3 wide. Guys are trying down the dive bob move. It's that left or right hander that leads into that combination, that 4, 5, 6, 7 combination back over to the double apex 8 and 9. That's a great shot. I'm not sure if that one's up as of yet here early in the day. But that was where, based on what we're seeing for the track map that we have, that shows us where all the cars are around the track. The couple drivers there, Enzo Fittipaldi and Hunter Yaney, potentially involved. Here comes the car on the hook of Jack William Miller, I believe. No, that's Fittipaldi's. I want to know if that could have been a multi-car incident over there. Even though we looked at the screen and it's telling us they're in different spots, that potentially could have been a 3-car pileup coming out of turn number 2 and 3.
Potentially where the car stopped is how it looked like. It may have been 2 separate incidents, but it may have been one. And
look, you can still see the stickers on Fittipaldi's tires. That's how fresh. They were just not able to get any speed. And I think that's Fittipaldi. That actually might be Hunter Yaney again. It's just hard to pick up with the shots that we're seeing here. Not quite the angle. And they're bringing out some heavy equipment. They're definitely going to have to work on the barrier here as well, as we've moved some barriers. So tough to see that in a qualifying session for drivers trying to start the season here, especially Enzo Fittipaldi and the guys involved here, both Hunter Yaney and Jack William Miller. Yaney actually not even on the racetrack yet. I wonder if he was just coming out on track when this potentially could have happened.
But now the rest of the teams also have to manage the rest of this qualifying session. It's, did you get a lap in? Did you get your best lap in? Were your tires up to temperature? And you can see that's significant damage to Hunter Yaney.
Yeah, that's Hunter Yaney. So indeed, he has lost the rear wing off that car. So I wonder whether Yaney coming out potentially on his outlap with sticker tires got on the gas coming into that corner and just looped it around, and the other 2 drivers potentially know where to go. We're playing Sherlock Holmes here right now, trying to piece it all together, what we've seen.
Just trying to judge by the looks of the cars as they get removed from the accident crash scene and see what's left in it. But as you see, still the remnants of stickers on the tires definitely means that car was not up to temperature and that driver was not up to speed.
Yeah, didn't put 1 lap in the books on live timing, so he must have been coming out. And then there's the damage there. So there's 1 car coming with, you can see the yellow, what we call the diaper around the outside. Essentially, it's obviously leaking fluid, so they cover it with the tarp underneath. So any fluids that leak stay on the tarp, don't go on the racetrack. But that also signals some pretty major damage in the back of whoever's car that was. We can't tell you as of yet. We haven't seen the 3rd car involved. But and listen, work to be done. At the very least, I know it's hard to put a silver lining on this, but they don't come back onto the racetrack till tomorrow morning for qualifying for race 2, Todd, for Indy Pro 2000. So if there's one good thing, that team's going to have all night to fix that car. And
in some cases, it may take all night to fix those cars because there's some significant damage to the cars, whether it be Hunter Yaney or Enzo Fittipaldi out on track. And we got red flagged, and now we're down to just about 6 minutes remaining in this session, and hopefully they can clear the rest of the cars and the debris and make sure that track is clear. We saw the forklift maneuvering to perhaps move a little concrete barriers as well, but there might be a dash out at the end of this qualifying session for drivers trying to make that 1 good lap.
But indeed, I think what we're kind of piecing together here right now, Hunter Yaney, the rookie driver in the VRD machine, coming out on sticker tires, just getting ready to go, trying to get up to speed. Based on the look of the car, I didn't see a ton of damage. What I saw, just the rear wing. Like he potentially just got into the corner, lost the rear end, and backed it in. And then if the other two drivers could have been involved, coming through, seeing the incident, having to take evasive maneuvers, maybe collecting each other. So you hate to see the collateral damage that can happen, especially when one driver makes a minor error and everybody else just trying to kind of take evasive maneuvers. But again, 3 drivers involved. Jack William Miller, Enzo. Actually, William Miller's back to pit lane. So Jack William Miller in the number 40, indeed back to pit lane, at least what I'm seeing here on live timing. Enzo Fittipaldi in the 74, that might have been the car that coming in with the diaper and fully engulfed there to make sure that it doesn't leak out. Hunter Yaney involved as well. So time winding down, like you said, Todd, less than 5 minutes remaining. Oftentimes in a red flag like this, they may give another minute or two to try to give a little extra time on the racetrack. I'm not sure yet. I haven't heard anything from race control, but indeed, we'll find out whether or not at time's out. And otherwise, man, 5 laps in the books for Braden Heaves. He's currently sitting P1, 3/10 quicker than Hunter McElroy. If indeed they come back out onto the racetrack, drivers will be ready to put the hammer down.
And it'll be interesting to see them moving through this area. There's a lot of kitty litter going down to absorb those fluids that were put down onto the track. The crews are working to sweep that away and blow it off the track, but there's always going to be a little bit of moisture still from those fluids down on the track.
Yeah.
So the drivers that do go out and hope to put that hot lap in late will have to be wary of that coming through that part of the course. They're doing a great job cleaning up, and hopefully they can move out of the way and get us back to green quickly.
And this is it. If it comes down just a couple of minutes, we're literally 4 minutes remaining. You've got to go through the first time very carefully, right? You have no idea what the grip level is going to be like. The kitty litter or whatever absorbent they put down on the racetrack, it doesn't play for grip. You have to get rid of it first. So drivers have to be very, very, very cautious coming through if we indeed go back to green.
Yellow flag is back up at the starter stand, which means we should be getting back to green flag action for this Indy Pro 2000 qualifying session shortly. They're just maneuvering the safety vehicles, the AMR safety team, to get them back into position so that they can resume under green flag conditions. Braden Eves, Hunter McElroy, the top 2 cars in this qualifying session. Artem Pestrov, Christian Rasmussen, and Reese Gold, the top 5.
Yeah, Inam Ahmed, the British driver for RP Motorsports, in the 6th spot in the 77. Manuel Suleiman, 2 times the race winner last year for Juncos Racing in the 22, now 6th. Wyatt Prokacek in 7th. Prokacek has impressed me. Driver who was kind of a mid-pack guy in his first year in USF 2000 last year, taking the big leap up to Indy Pro, and he's been good. P8 for Prokacek. Colin Kaminsky in 9th, and James Rowe Jr. In the Turn 3 Motorsport car, rounding out the top 10. Jacob Abel in 11th. Cameron Shields 12th. Kiffin Simpson 13th. Flynn Lazier 14th. Jack William Miller 15th. Of course, the 2 drivers involved, Enzo Fittipaldi and Hunter Yaney, 16th and 17th. That's where they'll start the main event, their first main event, which again will be on track tomorrow. Indy Pro 2000 drivers will be qualifying first thing in the morning, 8 a.m. Their first race of the weekend at 11:50 tomorrow, and they're back on track to fire things up again, 8 a.m. in the morning on Sunday to kick off Sunday's race day festivities. Yellow flag, as we said, in the hands of the starter at start finish. Indeed, hand in the air. I think he's probably given them the 1 minute mark. We have 2 minutes to go. Again, not quite sure if they're extending the time period. We have done that before for long red. Try to give them a couple more minutes. We'll see what the play is here with race control.
As much as you'd like to give them all the track time that you can, there's the rest of the schedule that has to be dealt with, and it's a rather time-certain schedule here to get everyone out on course and to give them adequate track time. But the yellow flag in the air, it looks like the cars will get back out at least briefly in this Indy Pro 2000 qualifying session here at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Day number 1 on Friday. Plenty of action out on track so far. A lot of interesting developments in just about every session that we have seen out on track. And this one in Indy Pro 2000 with that contact out on track causing the long red flag, going to provide plenty of drama in the closing minutes.
Yeah, Indy Lights drivers in the hot grid over in the paddock area getting set to go. They'll roll out for their qualifying session, 30-minute qualifying session at 1:25. USF 2000 back on track at 3:30. Then we have the first practice for IndyCar, then 5:25 to cap off the day. Indy Lights qualifying too. Green flag has flown. We're back underway. 48 seconds remaining on the clock that we're looking at. I've got a message into race control to see whether or not we're going to extend this at all. But right now, it is Braden Eves on top, because literally maybe getting a lap or two in here. Drivers getting back onto the racetrack. Let's see what happens. Again, just waiting to see if I can't get some intel here. Eves, McElroy, Petrov, Rasmussen, Gold, the top five. The top rookie right now would then be Rasmussen, both he and Gold running in USF 2000 last year.
Toughest challenge might be finding a little bit of clear racetrack with just this abbreviated minute or two at the end of the session. We're actually going to run out the clock momentarily before the drivers even get back to the timing line and the start-finish line.
Getting told potentially the drivers are going to be allowed one full lap at speed, so that's what I'm getting at least from race control at this point here. We'll get a confirmation on that, but that's again secondhand. Not sure if anybody's going to be able to lay a lap down if they only get one. If they come across the line here right now, you would have had to get on the throttle out of 9, get through 10 to be up to speed, as much temp as you can in the tires coming across the timing line for the first time. So right now, Eve's still P1. We'll see what kind of lap times we see when they come back around here. Time has run out of the hourglass for the drivers here in Indy Pro 2000. Their opening qualifying session. Braden Eves leading the way with a 108.936. Quite a ways off the track record. But again, they didn't get that time to really get things spooled up, get those tanks, those fuel tanks depleted to go for that big lap. We may see another run at the record tomorrow morning, although pretty cool for a morning qualifying run. Drivers coming into pit lane right now. We'll see if anybody gets it. Eves does not go quicker. McElroy does not go quicker. Neither does Petrov. No one going quicker here on this one lap, and it does not surprise me. Not much you can do in one lap, getting those tires up to temperature. So the drivers working their way now into pit lane. They've completed that one flying lap. And Braden Eves goes P1, just as he did at Barber Motorsports Park to start off the season. Eves in the Cambridge Global Payments Machine for Exclusive Autosport, a 108.936. Hey, Exclusive Autosport's got to be happy. The Canadian team, Michael and Kimberly Duncalf, own it. P1 in both categories. Christian Brooks and Braden Eves, they lock out the front row in USF 2000. First and third here in Indy Pro, so a great start to this weekend for Exclusive Autosport. Hunter McElroy picking up where he left off as well. Todd, a win at Barber Motorsports Park. He splits those two exclusive drivers. So it's Eves and McElroy on the front row for race number 1. Artem Petrov alongside last year's USF 2000 champion Christian Rasmussen on row 2. Reese Gold and Inam Ahmed will be on row number 3. Manuel Suleiman and Wyatt Prokachik on row 4. And there's your top 10. Colin Kaminsky in 9th and James Rowe Jr. in 10th. Qualifying for USF 2000 is done. Again, we're a full run through the road to Indy. Indy Lights will be up next, but that was definitely an interesting qualifying run there for sure, Todd.
Yeah, they gave the Indy Pro guys a shot at it, but nobody could better their position, and Braden Eves will come out on top and have the pole position for race number 1. Indy Lights qualifying coming up. Stadium Super Trucks coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. NTT IndyCar Series with their first practice session of the weekend. They will be on track later on this afternoon as well. Honest One Auto Care is a proud sponsor of this year's Firestone Grand Prix race. Serving Tampa Bay with locations in Tampa and Bradenton, they take pride in giving back to the communities they serve. Honest One Auto Care provides quality auto repair on all makes and models with honesty and transparency. All work is backed by an industry-leading 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty. Honest One Auto Care provides auto care the way it should be. It's a bodacious day at Woody's Wash Shack, the official car wash of the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. They're the highest-rated car wash in Tampa and St. Pete. They're locally owned and family-operated. Be sure to stop by their tent for a free car wash and a chance to win a totally tubular prize. Remember to support local anything. St. Pete is a city of opportunity where sun shines on all who come to live, work, and play. We're an innovative, creative, and competitive community that honors its past while pursuing its future. On behalf of Mayor Rick Kreisman, welcome to St. Petersburg, the sun shines here. It is Friday here at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Thank you for following social distancing guidelines. Thank you for using the hand washing stations and the hand sanitizing stations. We appreciate your help and cooperation, and also for the entry onto the grounds each day. In fact, every time you leave the grounds, you'll go through the same process. We appreciate your help in that, keeping our social distancing and maintaining distance and wearing face masks and coverings at all times as well. A reminder as well to please sit in your assigned grandstand seat. Seats have been reassigned to promote social distancing. We appreciate your help. Coming up, it's Indy Lights qualifying. As mentioned, Stadium Super Trucks will be joined a little bit later on in the NTT IndyCar Series on track a little bit later on this afternoon. We'll take a quick break and we'll come back with the Indy Lights Series as they get set for qualifying.
At TopCon, we know a thing or two about a smooth surface. Roads and highways, piece of cake. Airports, let's just say it'll be the smoothest landing you've ever had. But what about when you want to go fast? Real fast? No, faster. We've helped cars go faster than they've ever gone before. Broken a few lap records along the way. Want the best paving performance? Go to the source. TopCon, always one step ahead.
Hey, your Uncle Cooper here. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Goldie, my niece, your cousin, and Goldie didn't know which tires were right for her. The first ones were too much tire, and then the next ones were not enough tire. Anyway, long story short, Goldie found the Coopers, and they were just right. What a happy, practical ending. Go to sleep. I love you.
Go with the Coopers. Cooper.
Karting and motorsport enthusiasts, Lucas Oil School of Racing is America's #1 Formula Car race school. Enjoy modern paddle shifters, pit speed limiter, and onboard video along with integrated data systems. Get started today with our 2-day basic or advanced course. Lucas Oil School of Racing is the official school of the road to Indy. We can also qualify you for your SCCA license. Get started today by visiting us at www.lucasraceschool.com.
With over 40 years in business, High Tide Boat Lifts is committed to elevating your craft. Whether you own a personal watercraft or a large yacht, we can design and create the perfect lift for your needs. At High Tide Boat Lifts, we understand that you've worked hard to get to a successful place in life. We'll ensure you have a hassle-free experience, maximizing the time you spend on your boat with family and friends, and supporting your dreams out on the open water.
Hey, your Uncle Cooper here. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Goldie, my niece, your cousin, and Goldie didn't know which tires were right for her. The first ones were too much tire, and then the next ones were not enough tire. Anyway, long story short, Goldie found the Coopers, and they were just right. What a happy, practical ending. Go to sleep. I love you.
Go with the Coopers. Cooper.
Karting and motorsport enthusiasts, Lucas Oil School of Racing is America's #1 Formula Car race school. Enjoy modern paddle shifters, pit speed limiter, and onboard video along with integrated data systems. Get started today with our 2-day basic or advanced course. Lucas Oil School of Racing is the official school of the road to Indy. We can also qualify you for your SCCA license. Get started today by visiting us at www.lucasraceschool.com.
With over 40 years in business, High Tide Boat Lifts is committed to elevating your craft. Whether you own a personal watercraft or a large yacht, we can design and create the perfect lift for your needs. At High Tide Boat Lifts, we understand that you've worked hard to get to a successful place in life. We'll ensure you have a hassle-free experience, maximizing the time you spend on your boat with family and friends, and supporting your dreams out on the open water.
Hey, your Uncle Cooper here. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Goldie, my niece, your cousin, and Goldie didn't know which tires were right for her. The first ones were too much tire, and then the next ones were not enough tire. Anyway, long story short, Goldie found the Coopers, and they were just right. What a happy, practical ending. Go to sleep. I love you.
Go with the Coopers. Cooper.
Karting and motorsport enthusiasts, Lucas Oil School of Racing is America's #1 Formula Car race school. Enjoy modern paddle shifters, pit speed limiter, and onboard video along with integrated data systems. Get started today with our 2-day basic or advanced course. Lucas Oil School of Racing is the official school of the road to Indy. We can also qualify you for your SCCA license. Get started today by visiting us at www.lucasraceschool.com.
With over 40 years in business, High Tide Boat Lifts is committed to elevating your craft. Whether you own a personal watercraft or a large yacht, we can design and create the perfect lift for your needs. At High Tide Boat Lifts, we understand that you've worked hard to get to a successful place in life. We'll ensure you have a hassle-free experience, maximizing the time you spend on your boat with family and friends, and supporting your dreams out on the open water.
You got to go back to March of 2020 for the last time that the drivers of Indy Lights were on track here at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. We had a great session earlier this morning to welcome back this program to this fantastic event here in Florida. And once again, drivers rolling out onto the racetrack. It's qualifying time here for the Indy Lights drivers. 13 strong getting set to go. My name's Rob Howden from the IndyCar Radio Network alongside Todd Lewis, the voice of the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. We say hello to those of you on Sirius and XM. Thank you so much for tuning in for qualifying. 2 qualifying sessions actually today here for the drivers of Indy Lights. They'll have 1 race tomorrow on Saturday. And of course, they'll cap things off with an extended event just before the NTT IndyCar Series main event on Sunday. Gorgeous day right now. Not quite sure what's going to happen further in the weekend, but 81 degrees and sunny. Chamber of Commerce weather here at St. Petersburg as we are at the Alfred Whitford Airport here just off Tampa Bay. A nice little breeze coming in from the water. Gorgeous up here in the suites. And you can hear the drivers taken to the racetrack. Dallara IL-15 chassis, Cooper tires all around, and 450 horsepower behind each and every one of these drivers. And it's the top level of the Road to Indy back once again. Todd Lewis, let's bring you in. Really exciting. You and I were both here at March of 2020. We had that 1 practice session. David Malukas was quickest in that one. Here we go, though, coming back. After that year of hiatus, everybody wondered what was going to happen with Indy Lights, right? And essentially, with a couple of graduating classes, it's come back strong. It's come back with a lot of momentum, a lot of great interest. 13 drivers. We're going to have maybe 14, maybe 15 before the end of the season. I got to think people that are Indy Lights fans got to be pretty happy.
There's a lot of reasons for excitement and optimism for the Indy Lights series, and if something good can come out of something that has been terrible, let's see that we can do that with the Indy Lights series. With, as you mentioned, more cars on track, more teams that have chosen to be part of the series. The Halo device is on the cars this year. I think it looks pretty cool, and the cars are out on track just completing their first laps and getting those tires up to temperature. Let's try to complete a session without some sort of incident. We've had all sessions marred a little bit at some point today here at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. For some reason, it's just been something that's caused a red flag in just about all of the sessions. And trying to find track space shouldn't be a problem for the 13 cars around this 1.8-mile circuit, although I just saw 5 of them bunched up going through corner number 1 in the last half lap.
Well, you know, I think that it speaks to the competitiveness of the series right now. I think USF 2000 Indy Pro, everybody knows that qualifying is so crucial. If you're starting back in 14th or 15th, you're not winning this race. You're going to have to struggle to get into the top 5. It's hard to move forward here. There are a couple of great places to pass, but it's not easy. So the pressure put on these drivers during qualifying really has forced a couple of them into some small issues. That's why we've had some red flags. Drivers just really getting aggressive. We've had some rookies that have made some mistakes. We saw Hunter Yaney potentially spinning to cause that long red flag in Indy Pro 2000. But back on the racetrack right now here with Indy Lights, to speak what you talked about, the positivity that we've been able to spin off a year of hiatus. Everybody missing, of course, Indy Lights throughout the season last year. but just the excitement coming in here in the off season. New teams coming back like Carlin. To have Carlin come back, what a vote of confidence moving forward into the future. A team that joined the series back in 2015. Carlin, a worldwide top junior formula program. They've had programs in everything from F4 to F2, F3, Euro Formula Open, whatever it may be. A lot of different programs for Carlin, and for Trevor and Colin Hale, the team manager, to say, "Hey, we want to be back. We want to help develop our staff to be able to move into the NTT IndyCar Series with that team." That's huge. And then, of course, you take that and add in the graduating drivers. 2 champions in Indy Pro 2000, Stingray Robb and Kyle Kirkwood coming in. You've got Linus Lundqvist coming in. Malukas is back. Toby Sowery's back. And just a couple of the other drivers that have come in. Kyle Kirkwood, of course, won. I think everybody's talking about. Kyle had a rough one at Barber Motorsports Park, but to set the stage for this qualifying run, as we have just 5 minutes in, Kyle Kirkwood was the quickest driver in practice earlier today.
So that's Kyle Kirkwood coming back to a place that he knows, a place that he's comfortable with, and has a little bit of a feel for, having raced here previously in the other Road to Indy series. Maybe gets his season back on track after a challenging first weekend at Barber Motorsport Park. Linus Lundqvist, who you mentioned, was just bumped out of the top spot by Alex Peroni on the timing sheets in the early going, but a driver who has had a very successful young career, but has never raced on a street circuit before. Handled himself pretty well, I thought, in the practice, improved and moved steadily up the timesheets. We'll see what he can do in the qualifying session now.
I really like this because obviously Linus Lundqvist has spent a lot of time testing at Barber Motorsports Park. It paid off. He and his teammate David Malukas were able to dominate and get those 2 victories, but you come here to St. Petersburg where you cannot test, which is a brand new racetrack every time you roll out. For him, it's really an opportunity for us to see his natural talent, right? Because you throw him into the wolves, what can you do on a track you've never been to? You've never run a street circuit before. It's going to be a bit tougher that way as well, where you get a guy like Alex Peroni, who has a tremendous record, a CV of running in street circuits. Formula Renault, 4 race wins there, at Pau, at Monaco. Alex Peroni is a tremendous driver. And I'll tell you, when I found out that he was coming over to run, last year ran in the F3 program, FIA F3, finished 10th with Campos Racing. When I found out that Alex was coming over to run with Carl, I went, man, what a great pairing that is. And I said to myself, I can't wait till we get to St. Petersburg, because that'll be his place to really put his mark on the season and say that he can challenge for race wins.
Good to see Daniel Frost back out during this qualifying session. He's the one who had the trouble during the practice session for the Indy Light Series a little bit earlier. Had some contact, missed the corner, went a little wide, damage to the right front of that car, but corrected by the team and put back in place in time for this qualifying session just a couple of hours after the conclusion of that morning practice session. But he is back out on track as well. So all 13 competitors have now turned laps and just running 4 or 5 laps so far, as we're nearly 7 minutes into this 30-minute session.
Kudos to the Andretti Autosport team that obviously dug in and jumped on the car of Daniel Frost to fix the injuries to that Dallara. Obviously, just the right front, maybe, as I said, potentially some floor damage. But if they were able to get out that quickly, potentially not. And he's back on the racetrack, currently P6, so not feeling any less confidence after that incident. Because remember, he was P1 when he made the mistake and lost the rest of that session. But Daniel Frost, a talented young driver from Singapore, and I think we talk about levels of experience on these street courses. Daniel's a winner in Toronto back in Indy Pro 2000. That's a tough car to hustle around. This one has a lot more of everything. But the Indy Pro car, you really got to hustle. And I think that's going to bode well for Frost and potentially turning his season around as well. He didn't have the best weekend at Barber Motorsports Park, so I think anything in top 5 or even better, I think would be a big one for Daniel Frost.
Alex Peroni with the quickest time so far, a 1:05.7. Devlin DiFrancesco jumps up to run second quickest now. A lot of shuffling here in the early going, and that'll continue for some time. This session a little bit longer than the other Road to Indy steps, the USF 2000 or the Indy Pro 2000. Do drivers approach this one differently because they have an extra set of tires? Could we see someone perhaps hit halfway through, change set of tires, and go back out for a little more fun?
And add a little more to the wrinkle. It's not the 20-minute session either. It's the 30-minute session. So you have the extra time if you indeed want to come in and put on fresh tires. There are the 4 sets of Coopers that you're allowed to use through the practice, 2 qualifying and the 2 mains. most drivers use those carryover set tires. They don't want to use a fresh set, especially at a street circuit here. They're not going to use the first set when they go out. That's just getting used to the track. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody come in and put some fresh rubber on. That wouldn't shock me, especially if you're maybe mid-pack and you'd like to see yourself try to go for a race win. If you're 7th, like if you're Toby Sowery and Robert McGinnis, yeah, maybe I'll come in, make an adjustment, and try to go back out. We'll see. And again, waiting for the fast times to come late in the run anyways, because the fuel load's going to go down. These Cooper tires do maintain their grip significantly through the entire session, so I expect to see the fastest laps come when these cars start getting super light. David Malukas now on top. We talked about the fact that Kirkwood was quickest in practice, but Malukas was the guy who was quickest back in March last year.
There you go. Malukas on top, just about 9.5 minutes into the section. It's Peroni, Malukas now, second, DeFrancesco, Frost, and Lundqvist, and this is the shuffling that's going to take place probably for another 10 minutes or so till we really get down to when we can see those quick laps.
What I thought was interesting at Barber Motorsports Park was Devlin DeFrancesco was essentially the best of the Andretti group. Now that's the Andretti-Steinbrenner Autosport. George Steinbrenner involved in that particular entry, but within the Andretti family, he was the guy that was, stood up and said, I'm going for the championship. A couple of top threes on the podium, both races for DeFrancesco. Gets himself right in the middle of the fight. Indeed, looking at the championship battle right now, coming into this one here, DeFrancesco second place in points behind Linus Lundqvist. It's significant. It's 13 markers, but he's ahead of everybody else in the field. So I think you got to say well done for Devlin DeFrancesco. He's in that Power Tap Delara IL-15, the Canadian out of Unionville, Ontario, Canada. That's where he lives. Normally we just say Toronto, and if it's a metropolitan around, we just say Toronto. People know about that. Of course,
yes, the greater Toronto area.
The GTA.
Yes, right.
Exactly.
Kyle Kirkwood's popped in on top now. Again, we expected him to be quick with a 105.50. Peroni, Lundqvist, Malukas, and DeFrancesco now running the top 5 as we're just about 11 minutes into the session.
Riding on board with Stingray Robb here. You trackside looking at the big boards here. Stingray, essentially the dominant driver last year here in Indy Pro 2000 when we came to cap the season, ended up winning the championship. Almost a perfect weekend, but he was really stellar, setting a track record, getting the job done. 105.03 track record here. We're about a half second off the track record right now with Kirkwood, but again, early in this run still, 18.5 minutes still to go in a 30-minute qualifying session. Stingray Robb hustling this Delara IL-15 around into the hairpin here. A lot of steering wheel input there. Got to get that thing unwound and back on the throttle. Now push to pass. We talked about that a little bit. You don't get that obviously in qualifying, but we tested it in the practice session. Each driver got 3 applications of the 50 extra horsepower push to pass. They'll use those in the races as long as they're within 1.5 seconds of the driver in front of them, and I believe it's 15 applications throughout the racing. So a lot of opportunity for drivers to use that extra horsepower to pass.
A lot of work on that lap for Stingray Robb, and he only improved himself 1 position in this going. And this is part of the growth and development process for drivers as well. You mentioned the dominating weekend that he had here at St. Petersburg 6 months ago as he was capping off his championship in the Indy Pro 2000. Almost a perfect weekend. Set qualifying records, set race lap records, but couldn't quite sweep the weekend because of a little bit of an issue. But now it's not everything's new again, but there are new things that are going to be key to success to moving up in this series.
Yeah, and again, Stingray's making that transition up, getting used to this new car, staying with the same team, but having to get used to the new race car. And some drivers pick up a new race car quicker than others. Some drivers may be suited to another race car where it's automatically more comfortable. We saw Wyatt Prokopchuk in Indy Pro 2000, kind of like a mid-pack guy last year in his first year of USF 2000, but really likes the Indy Pro car and likes the way it drives, kind of more his style. And we've seen him now up into the top 10 comfortably in Indy Pro 2000 as well. David Malukas back to P1 here, folks, as we're just coming up to the halfway point. Couple drivers into pit lane. Linus Lundqvist, Alex Peroni, Antonio Saravalli, and Nikita Lastishkin all to pit lane. So here's the answer to the question. I think we're going to see some fresh rubber coming out onto these cars here momentarily. Malukas a 105.345. Top time just over a tenth quicker than Linus Lundqvist. Kyle Kirkwood in third, Devlin DiFrancesco fourth, top four within 0.2 of a second.
That is close competition. It'll be interesting to see how these Indy Lights teams manage their tires for the rest of the weekend. There's another qualifying session to come later on. Will they use all of their fresh tires today? Will they start the races over the weekend on used tires? Will they hold sticker sets back for the race?
It's my opinion, at least in terms of watching the strategy from where we do on the outside looking in. I'm not in the debrief room, right? I'm not in the strategy room. But depending on where you qualify, depending on the driver, where you are in the championship, you may hold a set of tires. So if your driver's had a breakthrough qualifying run and you're P2, P1, P2, P3, you may say, you know what, we're not going to put the fresh rubber on for qualifying for race 2. We'll sacrifice race 2 to a certain extent to have the fresh rubber for the race to get a chance to be able to potentially go for a win or a podium. I think that everybody's situation is a little bit different if you're mid-pack or if you're up front, right? These guys that are running for championships want every point possible, and you get a bonus point for qualifying on pole.
Nearing the halfway point of the session, David Malukas back out on top. Lundqvist, Kirkwood, DiFrancesco, and Peroni are the top 5. And again, 0.2 of a second between those top 4 drivers. It is super tight as Daniel Frost pops in a quick one.
Yeah, like I said, these cars are continuing to get to come down in terms of the fuel load. Cars are going to get lighter and lighter. And again, if drivers do go for fresh rubber, it'll be a lighter car than they started the session with. So the cars are just intrinsically going to be faster because they're going to weigh less. Here's Stingray Robb in that number 2 machine, the beautiful Road to Indy livery on the side of that car. Stingray out of Payette, Idaho. Breaking through in his 49th start in Indy Pro 2000. Got that first win. Lifted all that pressure off his back, and boom, he just started on a roll. Went to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and swept there, and just really at that point was the dominant force in the Indy Pro 2000 category last year with Juncos. That speaks a lot, Todd, to confidence, right? The minute you know you can win races, you can.
The confidence and the mental part of motorsports and racing, as well as if you go for a long time, you've had success previously, but you moved up to another series and you haven't been able to break through, and yet that weighs on you. You feel the pressure. You feel, okay, what am I doing wrong? Why am I making a mistake? How come I can't close the deal on this one? But once you do, then it's the realization, yes, it is an achievable goal, and it's easier to repeat.
Yeah, what's the line? If you don't think you can do it, you can't. You know what I mean? You have to believe that you can do it. And all these drivers come in with the belief that they're the best driver in the sport, and they're going for race wins. There are, of course, realistic expectations based on their experience and when they're coming into the program and what team they're racing with. But indeed, all of them have to have that confidence to believe that they can put that magic lap down, that theoretical best lap that you're able to pull out of your data acquisition system. Let's have a look at the full field rundown right now. We got 13 and a half minutes still to go. A number of drivers coming into pit lane to put on fresh rubber. Daniel Frost, David Malukas, and Kyle Kirkwood, top 3 drivers, all in pit lane right now. 105.280 for Daniel Frost, 105.345 for David Malukas, so about 0.06 of a second separating first and second. Top 4 all within 0.2 as Kyle Kirkwood sits P3 with a 105.419. Linus Lundqvist, point leader, winner of the opening round at Barber Motorsports Park. The Swedish driver in the number 26, now P4, 105.496. Just behind him, Devlin DiFrancesco has gone quicker. Make that 5 drivers within 0.2 of a second, as DiFrancesco just 0.3 of a second slower than Lundqvist. He's into pit lane as well. Alex Peroni for Carlin Racing doing the least amount of laps of drivers in the top 10. Peroni, the Australian, in the number 5 P6. Robert McGinnis for Andretti Autosport, 7th. Antonio Ceravali, single car effort, family team, a bit of a ragtag group of people that they've been able to bring in. I don't even think they have a full-time engineer. They're kind of pulling in information from other sides. He's 8th position right now, Ceravali, the Canadian, 105.837, just a half a second back. I'm blown away by that pace here for Ceravali right now. Got to hold that to the end, though. Benjamin Pedersen is 9th. Toby Sowery in 10th. Stingray Robb 11th. So the Juncos Racing guys still having a bit of trouble, about 0.7 of a second back all told. Nikita Lostishkin for HMD Motorsports rather in 12th, and Christian Bogle in that 13th spot, 1.4 seconds back. But even look at Lostishkin, even just 0.8 of a second back of Daniel Frost.
Just about 19 minutes or 18 and a half minutes elapsed in this session, and Daniel Frost remains up on top. A number of drivers have made pit stops to go to new rubber for the second half of this session. Again, it'll take a little time, a lap or two, for them to get those tire pressures to come up to the optimum level, to get the tire temperatures to reach the optimum level, and then finding that open space out on the track to try to put in that last lap. As the fuel load, you get into the final 5 to 7 minutes or so, really becomes light, and that's going to be the time that we should see the quickest times in this session. Right now it's Daniel Frost with a 105.280 that is up on top of the timesheet.
Frost, Malukas, Kirkwood, Lundqvist, and DeFrancesco. 3 drivers from Andretti Autosport, 2 drivers from HMD Motorsports. It's Peroni in 6th for Carlin. Drivers back out onto the racetrack. Now, tough thing is I'm not on pit lane, so I don't know whether they just made adjustments or did they change tires. I don't know. We'll see if we can get a couple of shots. There's Lastashkin, the Russian-born driver who now lives in Los Angeles. 30 years of age, oldest driver in the field, but a guy that we've watched come through all the ranks, F1600, USF 2000, Indy Pro, always super steady. Hasn't been able to get any race wins, but has been on the podium on numerous occasions. And his dream at 30 years of age is, I want to run Indy Lights. I want to get to the Indy Lights program. He was supposed to be joining with Exclusive Autosport when they were expanding to Indy Lights. That's what was curtailed by the COVID pandemic, and then of course the hiatus for Indy Lights. Exclusive Autosport sold their cars to HMD Motorsports. They're now essentially the GRG cars, the Global Racing Group cars, out of that stable. And Lastashkin, I know, just absolutely loved being on the track as part of this program.
And one of the reasons that he was part of that program is because of all those years of experience and now reaching that Indy Lights level. He's supposed to help and bring some of that experience to his teammates that are not as experienced at this Indy Lights level as well. Yes, he's not running Indy Lights previous, but he has a lot of other racing experience that he can help with.
He's actually a driving instructor as well at the Porsche driving experience, so gets a lot of time behind the wheel of a car. He's looking forward to getting down to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, his home track. We'll be there with Indy Lights this year, as well as Portland International Raceways. As Indy Lights is the only part of the road in Indy that will do that West Coast swing. The rest of the categories, USF 2000 and Indy Pro 2000, will cap things off at New Jersey Motorsports Park in late August. All right, so fuel loads coming down. We don't know whether or not drivers went to sticker tires. We'll have a look here. Right now, you can see the lap times still around the 115s, 111s. Drivers just starting to get going again. That says to me that potentially there are some fresh rubber out there if they're indeed coming up to having to get these tires up to temperature. That's where you want to have that one camera right on pit out when they're starting to roll. If you can see those, if you can see that the stickers on the tires rotating around the Coopers.
And you have to get them on the way out because you won't get them the second time by. The stickers will be long gone by then. But Daniel Frost still on top. Malukas, Kirkwood, Lundqvist, and DeFrancesco are the top 5, all within 0.2 of a second. There should be a little bit of shuffling going on.
And Daniel Frost back down pit lane again. That's interesting. I wonder, did they make a couple adjustments? He's got 15 laps or 13 laps on the tires. Do you go back out and do a mid-run to get a feel for the way the tires are going to be in the race? Hey, let's just do a little adjustment here for the balance of the car because 15 laps in the races. I don't have it in front of me right now, but I want to say they're potentially 30, maybe 30 and 35 lap races depending on the length. I don't have the schedule right in front of me at this point. Let me have a look here. Let me see if I can grab it here for us to find out exactly how long those races will be. Indeed, I do have it here. Yeah, so Indy Lights, the Saturday race, 35 laps, 40 laps for race number 2. We ran 30 and 35 at Barber, a longer racetrack though. So that kind of is interesting for him to come in like that. I know he's P1, but by only 0.06 of a second. David Malukas still in the second spot. Kyle Kirkwood third. Lundqvist fourth. DeFrancesco fifth. This would be Frost's first pole position in Indy Lights. And again, just his second weekend start, having debuted at Barber Motorsports Park last year, running in Indy Pro 2000.
He remains out on top. Just under 7 minutes remaining in this 30-minute qualifying session for the Indy Lights cars. They'll be back again this afternoon for a second qualifying session beginning at 5:25 p.m. They will race on Saturday and then again on Sunday as part of the Grand Prix in St. Petersburg.
I would say look out for David Malukas right now. Last lap of 105.49. Yeah, Malukas. No, that's actually Kirkwood. Look for Malukas to go quicker when he comes back around here as well. 105.495 was the last lap, a 105.3 his best. Kirkwood, Malukas goes P1. Indeed, I saw he was starting to spool things back up. Malukas back to the top with 6.5 minutes to go, 105.213. Just 0.2 off the track record. David Malukas, the top of the charts by 0.06 over Daniel Frost, a 105.213. The record set by Pato O'Ward back in 2018, a 105.039. So David Malukas looking at a track record. Keeping pushing. Kirkwood went quicker a lap ago as well, Todd, did a 105.338, just over a 10th back. And top 7 drivers within a half a second as Frost back into pit lane in the 68.
I was just going to say, it's interesting that Daniel Frost is deciding now to make another pit stop during this qualifying session. Do they adjust again and get him back out for a quick flyer or two in the remaining 5.5 minutes?
Kyle Kirkwood now goes up to the top, and again, fuel load's coming down, and we are working with the top time. Kyle Kirkwood now, provisional pole sitter here. 5 minutes still to go, 105.133, just over a 10th off the track record. Kirkwood, 800s faster than Malukas. Frost, 3rd, McGuinness, 4th, Lundqvist, 5th. 6th is Devlin DiFrancesco, 7th, Peroni, 8th, Pedersen, 9th is Saravalli, 10th is Lastishkin, 11th, Sowry, 12th is Robb, and 13th is Bogle. 1.2 seconds separating the entire 13-car field. Kyle Kirkwood, the young American from Jupiter, Florida, in that silver and blue machine for Andretti Autosport up top.
Just about 4.5 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. If you're at the track with us, watching on board with Stingray Robb as he heads down into corner number 1, downshifting. Oh, hands full of wheel there as he's trying to make his way through corner number 1.
That car just does not look stable, at least not comfortable for Stingray. Back to the corner, you got to get in, and you know it's just the one piece of input. It's got to go to the apex. Looks to me like they're having a bit of, oh, driver's into the wall. We got a driver into the wall out of turn number 8. Red flag's going to come out. 4 minutes to go. I bet you that's going to be it. Kyle Kirkwood may have just stole the pole position as everybody else with 4 minutes to go on flyers. Someone's in the wall in the exit turn number 8. I want to say that might be Christian Bogle. We'll wait to see the drivers as they come in. There is DiFrancesco rolling by. AMR safety team coming over. And that looks to me like similar to what we saw for Jackson Lee in USF 2000, just overcooking into the braking zone of turn number 8 and just, pushing right off through the barriers and into the kind of the tires and into the wall.
Trying to minimize the damage as you're getting towards the contact and realizing you're not going to be able to make that corner. AMR safety team there, and also picking up the pieces of the car. That looks like the rear wing that one of those workers is carrying across.
Looks like it's going to be Alex Peroni. I had said Bogle, but Bogle is the other driver in the Jay Howard driver development entry. Looks like it could be Peroni. Alex Peroni was P7, and that means he's going to lose his fast lap as well, which could drop him down. Now, granted, his second fastest lap was a 105.6. That could still keep him in front of Pedersen. So indeed, Alex Peroni, the Australian driver, overcooking it into turn number 8. And Todd, we've talked about the importance of 8 and 9, even though it's slowest part, pretty much the slowest part of the racetrack, coming out of that 5, 6, 7 combination. It's that double apex where you really have to get through 8 cleanly, roll back on the power out of 9, because that's that big run all the way down into turn 10, and that is a viable passing opportunity.
Exactly. The importance of one corner setting up another, and in a sense, combining the 8 and 9 double apex, then use it one through one continuous motion. We're going to have a look at a replay momentarily, and I think we've seen that problem with Alex Peroni, who's coming through, and just gets the back end around a little bit.
Back end around, yeah. He was literally coming in pretty hot there, and that is entry oversteer, trying to carry some speed into the corner, get in the car. The minute he rolled in, and there's contact there as well. I think that's McGuinness making contact. Indeed, Robert McGuinness making contact with the rear wing. That's not going to be a lot of damage, because remember, they're back out on the racetrack at 5:35 this afternoon for qualifying for race number 2. All the drivers have worked their way into pit lane, but indeed, Peroni, the driver that was involved there. And again, just trying to carry speed, as much speed as you can into that corner. And once you get that input in and the rear starts coming back around, there's really not much you can do because you're probably trying to trail brake there a bit, trying to get that car to rotate because it's such a slow corner. That's where rotation can keep a lot of that forward momentum coming out.
You want to get off the brakes as quick as you can, and you're thinking about carrying the speed through. And the drivers are climbing out of their cars along pit lane. The final seconds of this qualifying session, they're going to let tick away and send out the safety vehicles and cleanup vehicles to remove that car of Alex Peroni. And this session will come to an end with checkered flags momentarily, but it looks like Kyle Kirkwood is going to have the pole position.
And I'll tell you this, Kyle Kirkwood uncharacteristically made some mistakes at Barber Motorsports Park, and he left there to a certain extent with his tail between his legs, although he did come out with a stronger effort on Sunday. This will be big for Kyle to be able to get back where he thinks he needs to be or knows he needs to be. Guy's got 4 championships over the last 3 years of open wheel racing, an F4, F3, USF 2000, and of course the Indy Pro 2000 championship, which gave him the scholarship to come to Indy Lights. 0.08 of a second between Kyle Kirkwood and David Malukas, and we're just not going to get a chance to see what could have been a pretty cool last 4 minutes as drivers' fuel loads were going down. They were starting to really get comfortable with those cars. What it will do is only a couple laps. I want to say maybe 4 or 5 laps on that set of tires if anybody went fresh tires. That's going to give them good rubber for the races as well. We qualify again this afternoon at 5:35 for race number 2, which will, of course, take place on Sunday before the NTT IndyCar Series Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Let's give you the lineup, folks, as we're essentially done. A minute and a half, I believe. Oh, no, they've actually stopped the time. They have stopped the time here, so let's not give it up to Kirkwood yet. Interesting. What we're seeing live timing here, they have stopped it, so we could potentially get these drivers go back onto the racetrack one more time. And in a minute and a half, with fuel loads down, we get them if they get two laps at speed, we could see a driver step up. So what I'm going to give you right now is the provisional full field rundown, because we may not be done yet. Kyle Kirkwood, a 105.133, fastest driver thus far, provisional pole, 0.08 of a second quicker than David Malukas. In third right now, the driver runner-up right now, P2 in the points, Devlin DiFrancesco in the number 17 for Andretti Steinbrenner Autosport. He is third. It's been a good start to the season for Devlin. Daniel Frost, as we know, the incident in practice, but able to come back and get things done here for Kyle Kirkwood. Still looking down here. Got a couple guys are sending me messages that we are checkered. Have not seen that flag fly at start-finish. Let me head back over here again. Just trying to see whether or not we potentially could be a checkered flag right now. I haven't got an actual official call from live timing. Actually looking at live timing, and they're saying that it is checkered. So let's say it. It's done. Kirkwood with the pole position. There's the car of Alex Peroni coming in on the hook. Not a lot of damage to that car. They'll be able to get him back out for qualifying for race 2. Kirkwood with the pole position for race 1, though. He'll start alongside David Malukas. There it is, your results. Unofficially, Kirkwood and Malukas, P1 and P2. They'll be the front row for race 2. Devlin DiFrancesco and Daniel Frost starting on road number 2. Robert McGinnis alongside Linus Lundqvist, the pole sitter, or the point leader rather, starting back in 6th position. Not bad for his debut race on a temporary street circuit. Alex Peroni still unofficially in the 7th spot alongside Benjamin Pedersen. I think Peroni is going to be the guy to watch coming from 7th position with the experience he has, his ability to go quick on a temp circuit, and the push to pass back in effect. Look for Peroni to be using that button to work his way back forward. All he'll need is a mid-race yellow, and it could be really interesting. Antonio Saravalli and Nikita Lastishkin will be on road number 5. Toby Sowery and Stingray Robb for Juncos Racing, 11th and 12th. They've been strong here before. Watch for them to get whatever changes need to be made to put them back where they need to be. They're 11th and 12th and 1.1 seconds back. Christian Bogle, driver jumping straight up from USF 2000 to Indy Lights. But I'll tell you, a very impressive run for Bogle right now, 1.1 seconds back, Todd. I'm pretty happy with what he's been able to do.
Even though he is running 13th at this moment, to make that jump from USF 2000 all the way to Indy Lights is a big one for Christian Bogle.
Yeah, no doubt, folks. Again, qualifying coming up at 5:35 rather this afternoon. That'll be qualifying for race number 2 for the drivers in the Indy Lights program. Of course, main events both on Saturday and Sunday. You can join everyone here on Sirius XM and XM for Indy Lights coverage by the IndyCar Radio Network. Nick Yeoman, the anchor, will be joined by Mark Janes and Davey Hamilton, the driver analyst. Jake Query and Michael Young will be in the turns, and I'll be down on pit lane with my good friend Ryan Marine. Thank you so much for joining us here, folks. On behalf of Todd Lewis, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.
Coming up quickly, it will be...
Upon a time, there was a girl named Goldie, my niece, your cousin, and Goldie didn't know which tires were right for her. The first ones were too much tire, and then the next ones were not enough tire. Anyway, long story short, Goldie found the Coopers, and they were just right. What a happy, practical ending. Go to sleep. I love you.
Go with the Coopers. Cooper.
Karting and motorsport enthusiasts, Lucas Oil School of Racing is America's #1 Formula Car race school. Enjoy modern paddle shifters, pit speed limiter, and onboard video along with integrated data systems. Get started today with our 2-day basic or advanced course. Lucas Oil School of Racing is the official school of the road to Indy. We can also qualify you for your SCCA license. Get started today by visiting us at www.lucasraceschool.com.
With over 40 years in business, High Tide Boat Lifts is committed to elevating your craft. Whether you own a personal watercraft or a large yacht, we can design and create the perfect lift for your needs. At High Tide Boat Lifts, we understand that you've worked hard to get to a successful place in life. We'll ensure you have a hassle-free experience, maximizing the time you spend on your boat with family and friends, and supporting your dreams out on the open water.